Oh, well, hi there, my handsome, wonderful, amazing, beautiful kindred souls. It's good to actually see you. So, I actually recorded pretty much this whole entire video when my camera just shut off and said something about trying to recover the data, but then it didn't. The video was just completely gone. So, I've actually already been through this, but what I was saying before is that I actually had an idea to do the week ahead reading just a little bit different than I usually do. So instead of drawing the cards for the week ahead and kind of reading those cards and then doing a theme card, I was thinking I just want to use the tarot, at least this week, the tarot, and do a beginning of the week, middle, and end of the week. And then a fourth card for the overall energy, just to, like we have been doing, this kind of see what we're kind of working with for the week and then what we can expect during the week. And then I'll go ahead and draw the cards for our daily angel reminders, but instead of going through the process and reading them and interpreting them, I'll just make the reminders from them and then kind of more surprise you going throughout the week of what they are. So I really honestly just had this idea right before I decided to record the video, so it's not too developed. So we'll just see how it goes. It seemed like it was going alright before the camera cut out and died and deleted the video, but I can't help but wonder if that means something, you know. Well, we'll see what comes up, because part of that be love meditation that I like to do before the video starts, if you remember, is expect the unexpected. And of course that was unexpected, so now I'm going to continue to expect unexpected things possibly to come from this. But just so you know, I already shuffled the cards and, well, explained all that. I hope I'm explaining it again well enough and not being tired or distracted or just a little bit worried that I don't know why the camera did that. So just a little bit worried that it's not going to record this again. But deep breath, release that worry, right? All right. Actually, I am going to, because it's burned out, just a little more incense. Just help get back into that mode of reading the cards and connecting with the angels, rather than worried about why my camera did that. Okay, so I already drew the cards, and our overall card for the week is the Eight of Pentacles. So that is really about coming to like the end of something that you've probably been working on, putting a lot of time in or effort, something that you care about, a big kind of project type of thing for a lot of us, you know, being in this collective. I mean, the last couple of readings too, it seems like we've been getting quite a few that are saying like, you're on the right path, don't give up, this is the dark before the dawn, this is right before the seed is about to sprout through the earth. So, you know, don't give up just yet. It's just the dark before you see the change and you see the light. And going into the beginning of the week is the Death card, and that is change. You know, it's not actual death, but it's like, you know, a death brings a rebirth. You know, kind of like, you know, the seasons, everything dies in the winter and it goes to that kind of dormant period, and then the spring, all of the plants and the flowers and everything, it grows and it comes back. That's more of what the Death card in the tarot is about. You can see it, so it's rebirth right there. So going into the beginning of the week, but what I was picking up on before was this change, this beginning of the week as we head into it, is posing some challenges. It's, you know, like we're feeling that more, like I said, that dark before the dawn. We're feeling more of that darkness, and you're starting to well, probably not starting, but in the beginning of the week, there's more of those doubts. There's more of, is this work really paying off? Am I really doing anything? Is it even worth my time and effort, what I've been trying to do? Or, should I just stop even trying? Is it even worth all of this, right? And then as we head into the middle of the week, we have the Six of Wands. I feel like I'm forgetting to say something that I was saying before, so I hope that's not happening, and I hope that this all is flowing and making sense for you. But towards the middle of the week is the Six of Wands, and this is victory. This is a card of victory. This is a card of accomplishing something, of being seen, like you've finally done it, right? So I'm feeling like this week what the Eight of Pentacles is telling us, just kind of like these all the moon phases up here, that we're going through phases. We're going through this aspect of a phase along our journey. And I really feel like the angels are telling us that, enjoy the journey. Take some time to take a step back from trying to always reach that destination and just enjoy these moments. So this week is, I'm feeling like there's the ebbs and flows, there's the ups and downs that we're going to be going through. Start the week out a little bit lower, a little more uncertain, feeling a lot of change coming on, but not necessarily feeling if it's good or the change that you want, or just feeling weird and off, that type of thing. And you're more ruminating on things that support this like negative story that you have. So like there's narrative therapy. It talks about how we have this life story. We're narrating this story to ourselves of what we believe about ourselves and what we believe about life. And what we do is we look back into the past and we see all of the moments that support the story that we're carrying with us, right? It's kind of like ruminating. But the thing about it is that we literally forget the good things. And I feel like that's what we're really doing this week, is going back and forth between, yes, oh, look at the work I've done, this is working, this is great, to falling back into, it's not doing anything, I don't see any results, and it's not going the way I want to. But it's because you're actually forgetting the evidence that what you're doing is working. And this is a psychological thing that we do, and that narrative therapy, talks about how we just look back over our lives and all we see are the experiences that support the story that we're currently living, that we're telling ourselves. Like the example I remember them using when we talked about it in school, and I'll always remember this, I don't know why, but it was, you just have this belief that you're a bad driver. So you think about, the time you ran a red light, or the time that somebody honked at you, or you jumped the curb when you were turning a corner, right? You only remember these moments that support this story and this belief that you're a bad driver. Even though, those things happened when you were like 16 and 20 and 30, and now you're like 65 and you're looking back on your life, but those are the moments that you see. Yet over all of those 40, 50 years even, over all of that time, you've driven dang near every day and you've driven fine and there were no problems. But there's just these moments and they're all you see. And it's quite literally that the memories and the recognition of the times that don't support that story, even though it's bigger, even though there's more of it, actually enters into the unconscious or the subconscious mind, and you actually don't remember them. because they don't support the story that you're living. They don't support your current reality, right? That's what my book, a lot of it, the Depression Warriors that I wrote, a lot of it is about. That's why it's called Changing the Reality of Depression, is because, you know, you live this certain reality and your mind, your body, just like in this physical life, you know, encourages you to believe that story and live that story, even if the evidence really doesn't actually add up. But to you, it does, right? So that's what this change I feel like we are going through as a collective is that type of change. Like that story that you have been living for such a long time, for like probably your entire life at this point, is changing and it's shifting. And as you go into the beginning of the week, that change feels weird. It feels off. And so your nervous system is like, I don't really understand this feeling. I don't really know what's going on. So I'm interpreting it as negative, as something to fear, something to protect myself against. You know, be on guard, protect that. And we tend to be on guard, especially anybody who experiences anxiety, depression, the neurodivergency, the CPTSD, any of that kind of stuff. You know, we tend to go to the negative as a form of protection because that is what we had to do to get through life to a certain point. It was how we kept ourselves safe. It's how we survived, was putting on that mask and protecting ourselves and expecting the worst and preparing for it. But things are changing and things are shifting, and your physical body doesn't necessarily know what to do with that. So all of this is a process. All of this is phases. We're going through yet another phase, yet another shift. So don't feel, and don't necessarily let the thoughts that you think are supporting the feeling that you have bring you down and make you think that you're not actually making change. Give it a little bit of time. Give yourself a break, some patience. Don't give up. Use that determination. This card's definitely very much about patience and determination, just not giving up and giving it adequate time. And then, you know, feeling those changes and then just kind of breathing through that. Just maybe perhaps reminding yourself of why you're doing this work, why you're trying to do what you're doing, and why is it important to you to continue watering that seed before it comes up. What makes it worth the effort, and why are not you on this path, and why do you want to stay on it? And that is going to help you get through that beginning pressure of feeling that change and it feeling unknown in your physical body. And then by the middle of the week, you're going to start seeing, I think, to what's happening this week is we're going through these phases and the ebbs and flows and the ups and downs, and we're just kind of going back and forth between this is good change, I want to do this, I'm excited, I am feeling positive, I'm seeing some results, it's feeling great, it's gonna work, everything is great. But then we wake up one day in that doubtful place, or maybe something happens that kind of brings that energy down a bit, and then we start thinking nothing's actually changing. None of this is even worth it. Why am I even bothering? I keep trying, but there's no results at all. And what's happening is, like I talked about with that narrative therapy and how our brains do that to support our story. So you go into the old story, you keep going back into the old story, and you're forgetting the evidence that what you're doing is working. You actually forget about it because you just go into that state, and it's kind of like a fight or flight active state of protection, of trying to keep you safe, and that's why that happens. But then in the middle of the week, you start remembering, oh yeah, I'm seeing the results. I can see the evidence. I can tell that I'm making progress. It might be slow, but I am making that progress. I just need to keep at it, and believe and have a bit of faith in the whole process and in myself. So, and then as we head into the end of the week, it feels like there's more of that determination, but there's also more success. So, maybe it's because you watch this reading and to kind of expect those ebbs and flows, and maybe a little bit of how you can deal with the more rumination or the only seeing the bad in your past that supports the story that you can't change, right? Maybe it's because you saw this and the angels brought the awareness to you that, these things happen and it's normal and it's okay and it's a psychological thing and it's part of the process. It's part of life. It's part of getting through it all. It's part of your journey. It's part of the growth, and your purpose and why you're here is to learn a lot of this stuff. And so you remember that, and then as you get into the end of the week, other people are starting to notice this change in you as well. And you're starting to see more of this change manifesting in the outside world around you. So if we go back to that seed analogy, like maybe this is the time you go out to water it and you can see just a very tip of green just starting to poke through, right? So it's still, you still have work to do, but it's becoming more and more apparent as we get through this week that you are making progress. But overall, the angels are letting us know that this change is just one of those phases where it's a big change. It's something you're not used to, and your body, your mind is in it. Your mind is in it. Your mind is going. You've got the talents. You've got the skills. You've got the ability. You've got everything you need to make it happen. But your body and, the way your brain is wired is just used to a certain way. And that's your beliefs, right? It's just used to it. And you've got to give your body time to catch up with your mind, to catch up with your emotions and with your soul and all of that stuff. So this week, remember, it's about the journey. It's not about the destination. Once you get through this phase of this journey, you'll enter the next one where you got to start from the beginning again and go through the process of getting through the phase until it gets to the end. That is what the cycles of, this physical world and this incarnation are just about, is those phases. You're going through a massive change. You're doing great work. Recognize yourself. Don't worry about what anybody else is thinking or anything like that. Just celebrate yourself. Enjoy your accomplishments. And as you go into the end of the week, you're going to see even more evidence of that work that you've been doing paying off. Other people might start to notice, but, and realize that there's always, options too. Just because you get stuck on a particular thought doesn't mean you have to stay with that particular thought. You have the ability to recognize it as being a thought that's from an old pattern, or that's your nervous system trying to protect you, and the more often that you do that and you recognize that and you say, oh, this is part of that pattern I'm trying to change, and I'm going to choose to look back and find sparkling moments. I can't remember if I actually finished talking about that, but when you go back and you, in your past, and you see moments that don't support that current story or that current belief, and you see good things that support that you are a good driver, in this example, right? In narrative therapy, those are called sparkling moments. Now, that's what I ultimately feel this week is going back and forth between the way of supporting that old story to those sparkling moments just coming in and illuminating something different. And your mind is seeing it, but your body and the chemicals and the brain structure just needs time to adapt and catch up to all of that. But it is doing it. But also, remember that you do have some power in all of this. So when the more negative or old story or what you're trying to change comes up, you can recognize that that might be what's happening and say, wait a minute. Take a deep breath. Let's look at this from, the eyes of the angels or the eyes of your higher self, the one that's not stuck in the pattern, the one that's not stuck in the beliefs. And let's look at it from more of that perspective. And let's see maybe if there are some things going on that we're forgetting about in this moment that is evidence of this change and of what we're working towards, and of I am a good driver. I am a good person. I do deserve love. I do deserve to be healthy and to feel good, and I deserve prosperity. And, the world is a difficult place, but, the choices that I make do actually impact that reality and the vibrations and the consciousness of this planet. And every time you choose to do that, this can be a very empowering thought. But every time your mind, your soul, you tap into that higher self and you take a look at this more negativity or doubts, depression, anxiety, any of that kind of stuff coming in, and you choose to take a look at that rather than just going with it, and you choose to find those sparkling moments, or choose to believe that there even are sparkling moments to find, what you're doing is you're creating change, and you are actively and powerfully creating change in your brain and how that physical body works, right? So, you challenge those thoughts, you just challenge yourself, challenge the ways that you're used to doing, and that's how you rewire the brain. So you're not just automatically, having a response to things, you're changing that response, and then that new response becomes more automatic. And in a way, that's like changing your reality. A lot of what that book that I wrote, The Depression Warriors, is about. Changing the reality of depression is about, making those neural patterns and that kind of stuff more automatic, which changes reality. Anyway, a lot of stuff to talk about as far as that. Check out the book if you want to know more. But as far as this week goes, expect the ebbs and flows, the ups and downs. Realize that you have the ability to make these changes. You're not just a spiritual being, you're a physical being as well. You're not just a physical being, you are a spiritual being. So you can tap into both of those sides of yourself and use them to create these changes and manage through these changes a little bit easier and make them more permanent and, in essence, change your reality. So let's really quick, because I think I talked about that longer than I thought I would. But, that's kind of what this Eight of Pentacles is a little bit about too. Is like, accepting yourself and your purpose for what it is, And I oftentimes think, keep those week ahead readings short, because it's just for the week. Keep them short. But then every time I record it, it's not short. It's just not. It never is. And I just come to the place where it's like, yeah, I just need to accept that they're not meant to be short. I got too much to say. I am built the way that I am for a reason. I like to share things with people. I love helping people, and that's just my authentic self. And trying to change it doesn't seem to work. So we all can use that lesson, right, of accepting and loving ourselves. That Eight of Pentacles is though really about that honing into your craft, your abilities, your personal talents, and using those to, get through this life and accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. Let's pull the cards for the daily reminders, and I will put them at the end of the video so you can check those out. Either, And you can look at them all at once. You can come back each day and look at it in the morning before you start your day. Just have a little reminder. Or I always have the idea of maybe take a screenshot and you can look at it as the days come. However it works for you. Doesn't matter. Collective, timeless reading, you know, whatever resonates and however it works for you. That's how it's meant to work for you. And as I say that, the cards pop out. Exactly 5 cards fell out. You probably can't see that. But we have freedom. We have miracles. Yep. We have power. Opening. I don't know if you can see that. Opening. And transformation. So as always, I am sending a ton of love and blessings to you all. Hopefully we got this recorded this time. Thank you so much for being here. I hope I wasn't too all over the place and you found this reading helpful. I appreciate you. And I love so much that you're here and that you stuck with me. So don't forget to come back. Check out those daily reminders to help you along this path, because it's not necessarily the easiest week again. So reminders can be helpful that your angels are there loving you and guiding you. And I will see you next time. Have an absolutely wonderful week. Mwah.